Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sunday Sound Design. This is episode 18, and today we're continuing our deep dive into Ableton Live's audio effects. We literally started at A, we're going to go all the way to Z, or some of my friends might say Z, and we're going to work all the way through pulling in Ableton's audio effects into an Ableton Live session, adding them to some key sounds, to some synth sounds or drum loops to see what they do and figure out how we can use them to become better sound designers in Ableton Live. In fact, that's what Sunday Sound Design is all about. Every Sunday we get together, talk about some topic, or explore some idea in Ableton Live, all with the goal of becoming better sound designers. So let's continue our look through Ableton's audio effects. And today, drum roll please, we are looking at Chorus Ensemble. This is a great effect that's actually a combination of the previous chorus effect in Ableton Live that they have enhanced and added some new features that sounds really amazing on synthesizers. In fact, this is an effect I use quite often to thicken up a sound, particularly we have unison on synthesizers to kind of thicken things up, but chorus just adds kind of that Juno type vibe, that the Juno chorus that's just really, really fun and really usable, and a great audio effect. So let's dive into it. Now, what I've been doing, if you've been watching these, just bear with me, give me 30 seconds. You know what I'm going to say. If you're looking at your audio effects and they look something like this, you see them grouped into folders. I don't like seeing this because I don't like having an extra layer between me and the creativity. I just want to go, I want to filter, go to auto filter. I want to EQ, go to channel EQ, EQ8. I don't want to have to think, okay, EQs and filters, blah, 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 to get there. Now, this is probably a helpful thing if you're just getting started because you learn what type of effect a thing is. But if you don't want to see this, then right click in your list of audio effects in Ableton Live and disable the group in folder option. So like I mentioned, today we are working with Chorus Ensemble. So let's add this effect in, and here's how we're going to use this. I'm going to just create a quick pad. We're going to load this in using Wavetable, and we're just going to choose, keep this pretty straightforward. We're going to try to work pretty quickly. Here's our sound. Okay, great. It's gritty, it's vibey. It's going to work perfect for this. So let's go back to Audio Effects Chorus Ensemble. We're going to drop this in, and we're just going to, I'm going to kind of A-B start with it out and not in the chain, and then add it in. We'll see what we have. So without it. Okay, let's add it. Okay, so again, you maybe hear a little more grit than you want, some kind of choppiness, or it's almost like it's cutting in and out than you want. But I just like the initial difference that this makes, taking it from this, which is pretty cool, to this. Right, and it just makes it super wide sounding. And I think initially, kind of in the initial incarnations of Chorus, it was kind of made to take something and make it sound wider, right? We only have one oscillator, let's make it sound like we have two. Now, in Wavetable and a lot of the instruments, built-in instruments in Live, we do have multiple oscillators, but there's still something about the Chorus sound that's just really cool, that I like, that I enjoy. So let's dive through this, dive into this effect. Let's talk about the different kind of options we have, and then we'll dive deep into some of the individual features. So first, let's talk about what type of effect we want. We have three different modes here: classic, ensemble, and vibrato. Let's just do a quick playthrough here. So let's start with classic, which is what we've been hearing. Okay, now let's do ensemble. Right, much more kind of subtle, but still has that thickener effect of a chorus. And then vibrato. So this is going to be modulating pitch now. I think this might sound crazy, but we'll see. Yeah, so definitely a little crazy sounding. Let's walk through each of these. Again, classic to me is just a classic chorus. Typically when I would use chorus this much, I would bring our dry wet down a little bit because I don't want that much, or I'd bring our amount down, or maybe even slow our rate down. But it's like super thick and we can kind of hear that movement. Next, if we go to ensemble, to me, it thickens it up and it's a little more like actually a duplicate as opposed to a chorus effect, if that makes sense. So hearing ensemble. Right, that's kind of a really nice effect. Now, these change based on width and rate and amount and all that sort of stuff. We'll mess with that in a second. And the vibrato just kind of goes crazy. I think for most stuff, unless you really want the vibrato effect, you're going to want to slow the rate down, maybe slow the dry wet, decrease the amount, but vibrato has its place, folks. Don't rule it out. I often on the show talk about there's not really a good or bad in sound design. There's not a this sounds good versus this sounds bad. It's all relative, and it's all depending on what you're going after, right? And what you're looking for. As soon as I heard vibrato, the first thing I thought is, okay, if I slow this rate down a little bit, let's keep the amount where it is. But if I slow the rate down, I would maybe increase it a little, honestly. You can kind of hear it start to move in there. I honestly like that rate. Maybe something a little faster and less amount. Right? It just adds character, it adds movement. And so don't rule something out just because the first time you hear it, you go, oh gosh, I could never use that. Now let's dive deep into each of these controls. Let's go back to classic and kind of jumping ahead of myself, getting into vibrato there. But let's go back to classic chorus. So if I look at this at first, we have our low cut here, high pass. So I don't know how well this can be represented. You definitely want to have headphones to hear this, but let's go like this. We can basically choose where that cut's going to happen. I guess that could help if it's starting to feel muddy, you feel like, you know, things aren't working really well. You could use that low cut, high pass to kind of trim some of that out, and use this frequency to kind of choose where you want that cut to happen. I'm going to turn it off for now. Next is width, and this says stereo width. InfoView says it sets the stereo width of the wet signal at 0%. The wet signal is mono. So we were at 100. Okay, let's hear this at 200. Oh yeah, definitely very wide. Then we can go all the way to wet. Yeah, that's pretty cool. If you're not wearing headphones, put some headphones on and try this out, because what you hear is when it's at 0, it kind of feels like it's forward. And then as you go to 200, it almost feels like it moves back. It's like, you know, pan is left and right, and width to me feels like it's forward or back, which is pretty neat. So that could be helpful again to see where you want it to sit in your track, how present you want it to be. Width could be helpful there as well too. And then we have rate. So again, we take something like this. We can slow down our rate, which I really don't love chorus that the rate is like decreased too much. It just stays kind of in one place for too long to me. If we increase it, it starts to almost sound like a vibrato Leslie kind of type thing. Leslie being the speaker you plug like a B3 organ into. So that could be kind of a cool effect. In fact, another thing you could do if you want to play like a poor man's B3, you could assign rate to your MIDI controller and start something like this. Again, it doesn't sound like a B3, but it's kind of the same lineage, if you will, right? Because it's the way it's kind of responding there, which is cool. So there's rate. Let's see how that plugs in and affects amount. So if we play, let's adjust our amount. So we definitely start to go pretty wild and crazy there. I actually like that. You know, the rate lower like that with the amount all the way up, dry wet is all the way at 100%, which means I'm hearing just the effect. I honestly kind of like that. Now, if we adjust dry wet, let's decrease this back down. Kind of find a good sweet spot there. Let's take our width back to 100 too. Right? So that's kind of how that works. We have our output, which is the overall amount of gain. We have warmth, which is just going to add a little bit of grit, a little bit of distortion. Let's try that out. It's really, really subtle. Of course, granted, our wet is down, so let's increase this up, see if we hear it better. Oh yeah, there we go. That's really cool. I like that. I mean, it almost sounds like a completely different effect to me. So that's warmth all the way out, dry wet at 100%. Let's kind of increase it here. Yeah, that's pretty great. And let's decrease dry wet. Yeah, I kind of like that. Okay, the next one, I have no clue what it does. But this is the kind of fun in this. And then we'll look at Ensemble and Vibrato and apply these to that. But let's look at the feedback button. I've never messed with this on course before. Let's see what happens. So we'll turn warmth off. That's pretty cool. So it almost sounds like a flange to me. So feedback, InfoView says, this sets the amount of each channel's output that is fed back to its input. And I think this has to do with the Eventide harmonizer, if I remember correctly. I think this was kind of the effect that did this. Yeah, that's pretty fun. You know, dialed in just right. We could have fun with that. Now, next it says invert feedback, inverts the polarity of the feedback signal. Let's see what that does for us. So without it. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. Feedback maybe makes it a little less usable to me, like for a pad or something. But so far, I'm super into the warmth. I've never used that before. I've never used feedback before. But super cool. Okay, now let's go to Ensemble. Again, I said it's a little more subtle. Let's make it pretty drastic and see what we can come up with there. Okay, so that's our rate kind of out of control. But even with our rate increased, bring our amount down. Feedback out. Right, that just to me has a different vibe than chorus does. So let's compare those. Let's leave the settings exactly where they are. Let's go back to chorus. Decrease our amount. To me, chorus feels like there's more movement, and then ensemble is just a little more subtle. It's a little more transparent. I kind of like that though. Okay, now let's go to vibrato. Again, set pretty high. It feels a little unusable, but the lower I set the rate, I think the more it feels like just a synthesizer kind of slowly going in and out of tune, which I should mention is essentially what it's doing. Vibrato is modulating pitch over time, right? Which is kind of cool. So let's go to vibrato. Let's leave it where it is. We get an offset and a shape. So We can mess with that here as well too. We're gonna go super crazy with amount. Which is going to make it pretty difficult to use live, but if we kind of blend this back and pull this back, I like the visual of the shape that you see, the display, the waveform. Yeah, again, I'm kind of liking that. Now, let's mess with offset. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Let's mess with shape. So you can see we're kind of going from a sine wave to more of like a saw triangle type wave. Yeah, there we go. So that's pretty fun. So if you're sorry, it's easy to get lost in this. And this is what I love about sound design is exploring new ideas, kind of seeing where that takes you. And to me, that takes me somewhere completely different than where I thought I was going to start, right? Have fun, which is pretty cool. But again, if we take that shape and we adjust that and particularly mess with the interplay when we're on vibrato, mess with the interplay of shape and amount. And so shape is more of a sine wave, is to me a little more probably usable in most things. Keep our amount kind of low. Maybe our rate somewhere like that. Maybe we could even go up to about 50. A little warmth. Right? Gives us some cool sounds that we can work with and use there. So here's my encouragement to you this week. Almost the same encouragement every week as we're going through these effects. Load in a sound, drop chorus ensemble on your synth, on a vocal, try it on drums, and see what type of results you can get. To me, I get stuff from almost Leslie-like B3 kind of sounds to something that sounds like a doubler, or it's thickening up my synth that's not very noticeable, to analog synthesizer that's aging and going out of tune. All sorts of different types of sounds, all from one plugin, the Chorus Ensemble plugin, which is super, super great. So if you want to continue this conversation with me next week, let's see what we got coming up next week. Next week is compressor. This is going to be fun. I don't often use, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't often use compressor. I use glue compressor, but this will be fun for me to explore compressor. So if you want to see that videos we walk through next Sunday on Sunday Sound Design, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post new content. And you'll see this as soon as it's available. You can join in the chat as we premiere the video, chat with folks all around the world that are watching it at the same time. Because I don't want you to miss this. This is super fun, and I hope it encourages you to dive into Ableton Live, get into sound design, and have a lot of fun. Take care, everybody. See you next Sunday. Bye.